Good morning, Beeville. This is Cindy Clark from PAC-B TV, and we're here this morning with Diane Hardt. She is the president of the local Baldwinsville Women's Garden Club. Good morning, Diane. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me, Cindy.
Why don't you tell us how you got involved and what you do, and we'll give a little history of the Women's Garden Club before we go on.
Well, I've been gardening for many, many years, and plants have always been part of my life since I was a little girl. And we had so much as far back as the peaches and the pears in our backyard and what type of pear they were. Anyway, I was wanting to learn more. And my neighbor, she's in the club, she goes, "You need to come out to the club one month." I'm like, "Oh no, I have so much going on." And I work full time and part time as well. And I really just loved it. I said, "Well, I'll go with you." Well, lo and behold, the women are also welcoming. They, it just felt right. They're very warm, and the hostesses for the evening, and just the camaraderie of the club. I said, "Okay, that's it. I'm joining." And I'm thinking, why not? I think we all should have something like that in our life.
Oh, I agree.
What we do is, contribute to the community. We give back. The flowers in town, you see, we keep those maintained. We plant those in the beginning of May. And then the hanging plants, and the village does a wonderful job with those. We have someone that waters the plants I think they do them every other day.
I think you're right.
And it's just quite a process, and it was fascinating to me to see how it was all done, and
isn't it nice
that's in the nutshell.
Everybody gets involved, really. It is such a community event. We look, because I usually get a hanging basket, and then we have, you have your containers around the community, and then you have the point.
Yes, and we also have 2 sales every year. Our geranium sale, which not a lot of people know about. Club members can share that, but we have a list of flowers. If you're a friend or family or want to purchase those, that's nothing. We have the perennial sale at the end of what's always on Memorial Day weekend on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And we all gardeners, we share all of our plants and as much as we can. And it's like 3 hours and everything seems to disappear. So they're all well received. People are so anxious every year to get started, and our summers are so short.
I know.
It's nice. But the geranium sale is before that. That's beginning of May, and it's through our club members. We order the flowers and bring them in, and I had wonderful flowers this year. Couple of new flowers annuals that I had never seen. So it's actually an annual type of sale. And then, of course, we have perennials at the perennial sale at Tops, usually at the Tops parking lot at the end of May.
Mm-hmm. Now, the point.
The point, actually.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I learned a lot of the history. We had our 60th anniversary in 2018. And our historian, she does a wonderful job, and of course everybody put it together, but we had a book full of 60 years, and now we're at 64 years, going on 65, and we're proud of that.
Oh, you should be.
And there's much to know. The 60th anniversary was held, it poured down rain, it was cold that day, and but was enjoyed by all. We wore our hats, and there were so many years of all of our, our founder, and we had it's just a proud organization.
They do a wonderful job.
The ladies
Absolutely.
really enjoy the planting, and most of the gals love come out, plant the planters, even if they're not able to come out and go through and keep them weeded and keep the vines from going all over the sidewalk.
Well, I've loved these flowers, and everybody else I know talks about, you go in Baldwinsville and you see these beautiful hanging planters, the planters on the ground, the hanging plants.
Yes.
And they marvel at it. It's such a thing to be proud of. And I have learned so much from the people, the women in the garden club.
Oh, yes.
If I ever have questions, I'm never afraid to call, and your whole group is wonderful and a veritable fountain of information.
Yes.
They're wonderful, and they're so knowledgeable. And I've got a few questions for you that I'm going to ask too.
Okay.
But
Okay, but the history in itself, there's a lot of history here in Baldwinsville, and I think everybody needs to, we all have a hand in it, including our village waterer. We had, a couple different people over the years, and they always do such a wonderful job.
there's
And,
flowers. I like it where there's flowers everywhere.
Yes, and not everybody likes flowers, and
Most people do though, I think.
But I think, yeah, generally, and we get so many thank yous. You're out, you're working, pulling weeds or whatever, and you have the public walking by and saying, thank you, they're beautiful. And the thank you to the ladies that never hear anything, they really like that. But you're getting back to the point, we had started talking about the garden, and this year it was phenomenal, as every year it is. This year we tried something a little different, which
I
is the
noticed that.
zinnias, and they're still doing really well.
They
'cause they're
are
a hardy-
beautiful.
They really are, and we're getting ready for our fall and wintering. So, of course, we have a surprise with our ladies in the garden, and they'll be coming out again, and you'll get to see those, and in addition to the garden itself. So it's a nice little welcome to have them out there waving to say hello. We're glad you're here.
Oh, it's so nice, and when you come down the hill, it just pops out. They're beautiful. They are. They
Yes.
really are.
Yes.
And it makes everyone. Well, I guess I don't speak for everybody, but I think I really can. It makes
Yes, you can.
makes us all proud to be in this community.
And I'm proud to say that too. That's one of the biggest parts of being president. I've been very proud of being able to do the job. It's a busy job, staying on top of everything and making sure I don't miss anything. But the point, I wanted to get back, and the point of the point, no pun intended, but it is the very center of Baldwinsville, and I don't think a lot of people know that.
I didn't.
The circumference of Baldwinsville is so, in outlying areas, and all the way out into Fulton, Baldwinsville is surrounding. So the point is the very center, and we're growing. There's new housing. Every day you see someone building up a new house, and the community has just really grown, and good things happening. So I'm very proud to be part of that.
Well, you've done a great job. All you and the ladies and gents, if there's any gents, I give you. I'm sure
Our
I do
husbands.
speak for everybody. Yes, they've done a great job.
do help.
They've done a great job. So now we'll go in a little different direction. We're coming into fall, sadly, and we need your expert advice on the best way to handle our gardens to prepare them for the upcoming winter.
Oh yes, our hard winters. But I think we have, right now I'm going to encourage everybody, if, there's still growing time. It might be getting cooler, but our cooler plants, kale, cabbage, well, cabbage not so much to plant now because it does take a certain amount of time for each to mature. But I replanted seeds and lettuce, peas, kale, many beets. I just put my beets in place of my garlic. I plant garlic every year at the beginning of November. Might be snowing a little bit, but ground's not froze yet. So you go put those in, they might peep up their heads a little bit, and then all of a sudden winter hits. We know they're there, and by next July I'll be able to harvest my garlic. Then I put another crop in after that. Now I'm going to let the beets just go until they get a nice size, and then I'll be hopefully canning those if they all do well.
Now, what about the flowers? Like you said,
now
the
we're
flowers
really-
are
Flowers, yes. We're starting to, just coming up this weekend, we will be having a fall cleanup. And that's what we go in, we clean up some of the plants. Members, of course, we have one that's, she's always there throughout the week and in the mornings and tries to keep up on the little things so it isn't so much all at once. And this weekend we're going to be doing that. We're going to freshen it up. We're going to pull out the stuff that seems to be dying. If they are perennials, we just cut them down because it's something we want to come back next year. Perennials are, and you know, every year they come up all by themselves. We keep them weeded, cut down, bulbs that needs to be dug out, and that sort of thing at fall cleanup. Some of the fall plants we are going to leave. The zinnias are beautiful this year.
Yes,
fabulous.
they are.
We had two types. We had the short, was small, and then the large. And the large get 36 up to.
Some they're big.
They were
They're
very, very
right,
tall.
yeah.
And they were beautiful and still are, many. So we're going to leave those in. And of course, cleaning up everything and keeping things weeded. Then our ladies will be they're waving at everyone as they go by and welcoming, and then we'll go in after that. Ladies will come down, we'll remove the pumpkins, we'll put bows up for Christmas, and then, go from there. But gardening itself, getting ready for winter, not just flowers, but your vegetable gardens, mine as well. I like to leave most things in, and pull them out in the spring because they're there for the critters, our little, feathered friends and squirrels, or whatever little friend you've got running around
Lots
the
of
house.
chipmunks and squirrels,
yes,
absolutely.
for sure. But they
yes.
really enjoy storing the nuts. I'm always finding nuts when I'm digging, but we cover our garden in leaves. If you have many leaves coming down on your property, don't just throw them on the curb. Put them over your plants if you're perennials to protect them.
For like a compost?
They will
worms
compost next year, but for the winter, they will protect your plants. So my husband and I, when the garden is done, we put as many leaves as we can around our perennials that I don't want to cut down. Even if I do, I just use them and then they'll turn into mulch in the spring.
That's good, and there's less waste and less putting them in bags or your little cart and carrying them out in front. I know I do the leaves all the time, and because your soil needs to be refreshed occasionally
well, we do,
too.
and you need to keep checking
and that helps
on the
with
nutrients.
Right.
Which brings me to another thing that I've had on my mind that I wanted to speak about is some of the invasive species that has happened and recently. We've had jumping worms. There was a segment in the paper, in the Syracuse paper, and a nice article. I didn't bring any articles with me today, but the jumping worms, I haven't found but one. That one must have been looking for a home because he made his way to my patio, and I thought, well, that's a funny looking worm, because it's bothersome to a gardener even to worry about your soil, and you want to make sure you have the right pH and that type of thing. But I looked, I thought, well, I'm just curious. Didn't I happen to walk up? My patio's only got a little step up, but here's this worm, and I thought, and they're kind of reddy brown, just a regular worm. Not an earthworm. And I looked and I thought, well, you're a little long, but I'm going to sweep you off of the porch. And when I did, he got right up, he coiled like this, and was very upset because I touched him.
Oh, wow.
I ran in my house. I was like, I'm going to go get my phone for my camera because I can quick take a picture that way. And by the time I got outside,
He was gone?
He really made
He was not happy with you.
headway. But
No, he was not happy.
That was right before we had the many dry days that we did. They don't do well in dry, so I'm not sure how well they did this summer here, but the jumping worms are here. They are throughout, all the way out west. They've had quite a, if you get on and research, and you can find it.
What do they go after most primarily?
They are actually, and the reason I bring it up is because they will, if you are an organic farmer or soil, they are after the goodness that the plants take to grow. So if they invade, they'll destroy our soils and we won't be able to grow anything.
Oh dear.
So if you find them, well, they say to kill them, and there's a way to kill them which I haven't experienced yet, but they say to use vinegar and salt, and just put the vinegar.
Is that the same thing like it would say with slugs?
Yes,
Okay.
similar, I guess.
Because I use the salt on the slugs.
Yes.
They say beer too.
Oh, well, there's several
Yeah.
things, and I'm sure if we did some research on it, we'd find. I'm just thankful that I haven't found any in my gardens,
found
my
any.
flower garden
Ooh.
or my vegetable garden. And but there are people that are having them, and there is a nice website out there with the information on, and on Facebook, which is our social media now. It's quite helpful. I'm in a group on there that I actually keep posted because they show the different types and what they really look like, and you can ask questions if you at all have any questions at all. And then the other invasive species is a fly, a spotted lanternfly. I haven't really seen them, but down there they've made their way here as gypsy moths. My Pennsylvania was full of them. They brought them into they're here in the state, and you find them mostly infestations on the trees. And I had seen, I don't know if it's the little pests that they're eating or what, but they're pretty, but we need to get rid of them too. And then there was one more, the gypsy moths. I do know that I killed some here. My father is in Pennsylvania, and his house, everywhere. I got out of my car when I went to visit, and it sounded like it was raining, and the sun was shining. Well, you could hear these
Their little
gypsy
wings.
moths chewing the leaves. They destroyed the trees down through the mountains, especially down in central Pennsylvania. It was quite a drive home to see barren mountains in the middle of summer.
Well, how do you get rid of them? I mean, what do you do?
Well, there wasn't a lot they could do. You can go out and try to kill them, of course, but I think there wasn't a whole lot they could do. But all of a sudden, they like the heat too. But if it rains and gets it just, there was no rhyme or reason. The leaves are starting to come back on their trees. But I think we all need to be vigilant of all the little things that go into the gardens. If you're thinking about gardening, you don't want the slugs and the little critters come in and they kind of burrow holes and chew up your roots.
They do.
And
They do.
All of a
Yes,
sudden you
they
have
do.
a
Yeah.
dead flower and you're like, what happened?
I know.
You
The little chipmunks
Yeah.
burrowing in there.
Yeah.
The slugs I don't like. I don't like the slugs at all.
Yeah.
Now, if I want to say for example, a coneflower, they're pretty resilient. They like the full sun. Now, if I wanted to move some around, is this a good time to do it?
This is the best time.
Okay.
Fall. You can do them in spring. Of course, perennial sale. We'll get ready to plant our gardens by the first week in June, and we want to have those things ready. So I move my plants around. I've even moved plants around in July. And like I say, I really didn't want that there, and I really need to cut this back. Or the bulbs themselves, you want to share those with your friends because every year they seem to multiply.
Yes.
And some folks get disappointed in their flowers or their perennials, and they shouldn't, because the old adage is with all plants. The first is perennials. Excuse me, perennials, the first year they sleep, if you plant them, they just sleep. They're like, oh, I found a home. Next year, they'll creep. The first year they sleep, the second year they creep, the third year they leap.
Okay.
And
okay.
It's fascinating. Say, now what year was that I planted? Well, actually, I was that way with my asparagus bed. I had started an asparagus bed alongside of my flowers because I love asparagus ferns. I thought, oh, that'll be nice. But I loved the asparagus, how it tasted so much, so sweet from the sun. I moved it. My husband built me a raised bed, and I have just asparagus in there now. And it sleeps, even if you move it or you put something new in, it'll kind of slow down a little bit. And then second year it'll creep, third year it'll be, hello,
I'm back.
I am going to take over now.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. Plants are fascinating to me because they have a life just like we do.
Yes, they do. Yes,
and
they
the life
do.
cycle. So
I know, and it's funny how some plants, like my neighbors have a black walnut tree, which, of course, you know the histories with the black walnut trees that you're limited on certain plants.
Absolutely.
And so that garden is primarily certain types of plants because the other ones won't survive.
Yes.
And it's funny, just a few feet away sometimes they'll do fine, but you try to put it underneath that tree and it doesn't make it.
Right. So, and that brings me to something else that a lot of people don't realize. There's what we call companion planting. We have speakers every month with our garden club, and we try to bring something in for everyone. And we had one of our master gardeners throughout the state, might have been with the Federation here in New York. The one master gardener had talked about companion planting. You can plant, and I always plant my marigolds in with my tomatoes around. Marigolds, the deer don't like, first of all, so there's certain things that you can do, but you can plant other plants in around your plants that, your cucumbers, for instance. Cucumbers love sunflowers. They love the shade. They love to be able to climb up them. And who would think cucumbers
Right.
and sunflowers?
No.
But that's just an example of companion planting that you can do with flower gardens or your vegetable gardens. So
That's kind of interesting.
flowers will, most of them will grow together, but sometimes some look better with others, and you can tell if a plant's doing good that you've kind of placed them where
They need to
the
be.
plants like them
Right.
too.
Right.
So
I
mostly
know.
vegetable gardening. The companion planting was fascinating to me because there's so many different types of plants you can plant with other things that do better than others.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
That is interesting. Well, I know we're heading into the time where we have to start wrapping it up, sadly.
Yes.
But I think you've given us some great information, some great advice, and I certainly do appreciate you coming in and spending some time with us
Yes.
and educating us. Oh, one
you.
more thing. I've heard there's plants that help. I know this time of the year when I have my hummingbird feeders up, there's a lot of bees. Now, I think we've talked about it, where there's certain types of plants that you can use that most people that probably call them weeds that will help if you put it on a bee sting. It takes the toxin out of it.
Plantain.
Plantain?
The plantain leaf that looks like a weed is one of the most valuable weeds in your garden or your yard. It might be growing up through the sidewalk and you'll say, oh, I got to get rid of that. And it's hard to kill, but it's very hardy and it's very good for bee stings and bites. I know I had a bee sting me on my chest, and I ran for the garden and tried to make some mud. And making mud is good because I didn't realize at that time how the little weed, a plantain weed, if I just put that on, would stop that and make it feel better.
I wonder if it has something that, like a Benadryl type
Yeah,
thing.
I think there's a type of antiseptic in it, and why not?
Well, that's
all
where everything
natural.
came from is plants anyway.
Yeah,
So
not all natural
Yeah.
is good for us. Of
Yes.
course, we've got poisons. A lot of people are allergic to those as well, and we just have to be prepared. There's lotions and things that you can put on to numb the area, the itching.
Right. Oh, and then the aloe
witch
plant
hazel
too.
is
The witch
very-
I remember my
witch
mother used
hazel
to
is a
have that.
plant.
The aloe plant is like for burns and things like that, isn't it? Scrapes,
yeah,
right?
it will
Right.
help heal things faster.
And it's very
yeah.
soothing too.
Yes.
Yeah, very
so
soothing.
plants are so many different things that they give to us that just go unnoticed.
And just looking at them,
Yeah.
just sitting in your garden and looking at your flowers,
Yeah.
just watching
Yes.
the magic of nature.
Of course, you look at the invasive weeds. We have those to
Wow.
worry about too.
Yeah.
And invasive, like just some of the, if they come in a plant, all of a sudden you notice a leaf coming up you've never seen before, you've probably brought something in from someone else's
Right.
garden. So I know with the jumping worms, they say how to check that is the plant that you're buying. If you just take it out of the pot and pull it out, and you can look at their root, if they, most of the time they're root bound if they're in pots. You can see there's a little, they say, I haven't seen them myself, I just, is a little, looks like a cobweb, almost like the gypsy moths do in the trees.
Right.
The white webbing.
Mm-hmm.
They sort of do, they a cocoon up, so to speak, in between the roots. So that's supposed to be a sign of the jumping worms.
Okay. Okay.
So it's all just the little things we
Well, it's been
need to
very helpful
have.
too. It's nice to know so we can look out for these types of things because we certainly don't want to bring some invasive thing into our
Yeah,
gardens
when we
or
work
other
so
people's
hard to-
gardens. It's so hard to get rid of all that stuff. It's hard enough to keep your gardens going,
Yes.
much less having problems with,
Yeah.
like a creeping Charlie or whatever, and these little worms. But anyways, thank you very much for coming in. I appreciate all
welcome.
the information, and I'm sure that all of you
It's
will
exciting to
appreciate
be
this
here.
as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You take care, and again, have a wonderful day. Okay?
Thank you. You too, Cindy.
I will. Thank you.